Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you taking out your time. And do you mind introducing yourself to our viewers?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. My name's Jen Moore Gordon. I live in Brisbane and I am originally from Johannesburg. So, yeah, I'm happy to chat to everyone.
And you came from Joburg directly to Brisbane, or did you do somewhere else in between?
No, we came directly. I had never actually been to Brisbane by the time we arrived here.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I came over with my husband, Mark, and my two kids. He had initially lived in Brisbane. So he knew the area and had some friends around, which made things a little bit easier for us. But I had only come over before on a sporting tour a couple of, like, a good many years ago, and I'd only visited Sydney and Melbourne. But I was pretty blown away by Australia even with that, and I was like, oh, I love the place. I could move there tomorrow. And yeah, didn't. But then when we did decide to move, we decided to come to Brisbane. And instead of coming to do a look-see flight beforehand, we just decided to come because we knew we were going to come. Said, let's save the money and just go. And I'm so glad we did. I absolutely love it here in Brisbane.
So which year did you come over?
In 2018. So about 3 weeks ago, we had our 2-year anniversary and we popped a big bottle of champagne because it's something to celebrate. It's been great.
Absolutely. Yes, you've made the 2-year mark. Woohoo!
Exactly. I know. we
And you
think we've
survived.
survived. I know we've survived. We're pretty settled. We're happy. We've never had the moment of going, oh my gosh, what have we done? Which is a good sign. So
It's
yeah, it can
very
only get
good.
easier from here, I think.
So you haven't been back to South Africa at all?
We did actually go in December, which was such a blessing with this whole COVID situation that's happened. I'm very glad we went. It was sooner than we would have wanted to go. We actually wanted to go this coming December, but because of family coming from other parts of the world, we went last year.
Yeah.
And I think if we hadn't gone, I'd be feeling a bit homesick now, because of the fact that we just can't get back to South Africa for at least the next couple of months or so. Um, but it was a lovely visit to go and see all our old places, see all our family and friends. And at the end of the trip, we were very happy to get on the plane and come home. So it was good that our mindset had shifted, that Australia was home and South Africa was a holiday.
How long was the holiday for?
Just over a month. It was about 5 weeks. And yeah, we were ready to come back by the end of it. We were happy.
So tell me, what did you bring back from South Africa when you came? Did you bring
Ooh,
any South African goodies with you?
we brought some wine because the wine here is lovely, but it's not our favorites and that. So some wine, a good big bottle of Amarula in duty free. What else did we bring? There wasn't much, I must say. The South African shops here are really good. We can get pretty much whatever we're looking for.
Yeah, you can get amarula here, but it's just much more
Yes, it just
expensive.
costs a bit more, yeah. A
Yeah.
couple of herbs and spices that you can't really get here. No, on the whole, it was pretty good. We had an order for the marshmallow Easter eggs to come in over Easter, and then obviously with all the flights being cancelled, that didn't arrive with family, so we were quite disappointed about that. But other than that, it's been, yeah, pretty easy to adapt.
That's true. I do really enjoy those marshmallow
I
Easter
know.
eggs. Yeah. You mostly get the hollow ones here, or you get those little ones that are filled with like chocolate or
Yeah,
caramello
or
or
like,
whatever.
yes, or like
It's so
jelly or
super
something inside.
sweet. Or
Yes.
yes.
So
I,
we were looking forward to that, and it didn't unfortunately happen. So yeah,
well,
maybe when the flights are back, maybe it'll arrive then.
I just heard about somebody else having received their Christmas cards now,
Oh
which,
wow, yes.
yeah, rather late than never, I guess.
Yeah, true. Christmas in July, it's fine.
True. And tell me, Jen, your story in terms of coming to Australia, what made you decide to come to Australia in the first instance?
Okay.
And then secondly, how did you go about the
Yeah.
process of applying, I
Okay.
guess?
So I think our story is a little bit different. My husband Mark is initially from Zimbabwe, and when he finished school, he decided instead of going to South Africa to study like the rest of his family had, he was given the opportunity to come and study in Australia, which he did. And he came to Brisbane. He studied at QUT, and it was a 4-year degree. And after that, he decided to stay So he came on a student visa and then decided to stay until he got his citizenship through naturalization. And literally the month he got it, he packed up all his stuff and he went traveling around Europe and spent all the money he'd earned over the last however many months. But he had an Australian passport, which, was great for him. He went traveling for a bit, and on his way back through South Africa on the way to Zimbabwe, we happened to meet. And 10 years later, we decided it was now time. I think it changed our mindset as well, because we always knew that we had the option to come to Australia if we needed to. So we were not going to. We decided we were going to stay in South Africa. We'd bought the big family house that we were going to be in for life. We had 2 beautiful kids there. And then we had one of those horrific robberies where we were held up in our house. Mark and I were tied up. Our son was 3 at the time. He was tied up. Our daughter was only 1.5, and she was not tied up, which was even worse because she was then walking around and we couldn't get to her, and it was awful. And we'd always had the mindset like, we can go to Australia if we need to. And that was the point we were like, yeah, wish we'd been there already. Yeah, and as much as we wanted to be close to our families and have that lifestyle, there was no ways we were going to risk that happening again. So almost overnight, my husband Mark, who'd lived here before, he was like, that's it, we're leaving. And I was like, no, let's not overreact. Let's give it some time, see how we go. And about 4 weeks later, when I couldn't be in the house on my own, or I couldn't cope with the stress of anything, I looked at him and I was like, yeah, okay, it's time for us to start making plans to go. And then it took us, from the time of that incident to the time we left, was just under 8 months to apply for everything and get everything in order and then come.
So what did you have to apply for? Because you had a passport.
He had a passport, but I didn't have visas, and we didn't have the kids' Australian passports yet. So they got Australian passports through descent, but we hadn't started the process. So it was just so many forms and going through the embassy in Pretoria. And I had to apply for a spousal visa with permission to work. And once that came through, then we could pack up and move, basically. So it was quite a process and a very busy few months. We had to sell houses, sell businesses, get everything going. But yeah, it was completely worth it. So yeah.
And you decided on Brisbane, and you're happy in Brisbane, obviously still.
Yes.
Have you seen more of Australia?
So like I said, I've seen Sydney and Melbourne before.
Yeah.
And I loved them. But this is just a much more laid back lifestyle, which is great. Since I have been here, I've actually been over to Perth as well, though. I'd never been to Perth before. And I loved it. I thought Perth was just beautiful. It was just such a stunning city and just a really nice environment in that. So I can understand why so many South Africans go to Perth. Excuse me. And I met up with family who came from South Africa there. So it's very different having a very short flight back to South Africa. It was quite easy. But we've never had a moment when we thought that maybe we should be anywhere else other than Brisbane. Like the lifestyle, suits us.
Just quickly touching upon the question about a flight. If you fly from Brisbane to South Africa, can you explain to our viewers how
where you go?
Yes, because
there's 2 options.
One of the things I've realized that South Africans don't really know about Australia is how big it is.
It's
like
enormous.
Geographically, how big it is. Not population, but so how many hours do you fly, and what's
okay?
that,
so to get back to Johannesburg, there are 2 different options. You can either, they're probably in infinite number, but the way we would normally do is you fly to Sydney, which is about a 90-minute flight. And then you fly from Sydney back to Joburg. And I'm going to get this wrong, but I think going back that way is shorter. So it's about 14 hours. But when you're coming from Joburg back here, it's about 17 hours to Sydney, and then you have a layover and then get here, which was fun with 2 kids when we first did it. But then when we went back in December, it was so expensive that we actually flew via Dubai. And I think it took us 27 hours all up to leave home here to get to Johannesburg. And as we walked into my mum's house in Joburg, there was load shedding.
Oh,
and so we felt well and truly back in Africa within 30 minutes of being there. Yeah, but it was also fine. Like, I stressed about the flight to come here with the kids. The kids were fine. Like, yeah, it was, you do
and
it.
their ages again, how old are they now?
At the moment, now they are 6 and 4. But when we moved over, they were 3 and 8. No. Yeah, 4 and 2. So it was pretty full on at the time, but they were fine.
Which is an interesting perspective to bring to, I guess, the debate, because when you move over as just 2 adults,
yes,
it's one thing. When you come over with little kids, it's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
How have you found that move in terms of for yourself with children? And also, how have you found it for the children themselves? How have they adapted and found the process?
For us, it has been quite tricky to come over with young children. We have no support here. So a lot of people move over because they have some family somewhere in Australia. We don't. We're going to be the first ones, and everyone's going to follow us. That's the plan. But it makes it easier and it makes it harder. It makes it easier because you go to the park and the kids will find someone to talk to, and you'll end up talking to them, and you'll organize play dates, and then that's how you get to meet people and make friends, which is how we have made friends, which has been great. But it does make it harder because you can't just go out for dinners and pop over to have a quick cup of coffee somewhere and stuff. Wherever you go, you either take your kids with you, or you have to get a babysitter, and babysitters cost a lot of money here.
Yes, upwards from $20 an hour, I would say, around.
Yes, easy. And then you really debate with yourself whether it's worth going out for dinner or not. So
because dinner costs you about double what it would, just because you've got to pay the babysitter
and the Uber, because there's no ways anyone's going to drive anywhere with even one beer. So but then from the kids' side, they've welcomed it completely. My son was a little bit older, so he remembered South Africa more, and he loved the bush and the animals and all of that. So every now and then he gives us I wish we could move back. Aww. And then he goes, oh, but there are robbers there. We won't go back. I'm like, okay.
Wow. Does he remember much of what happened?
He does. And he's very good. He'll talk about it, and like, he kind of understands it. But the funny thing is, he went to kindy here last year, and they read a book about a cat burglar. And everyone in his class said, what's a burglar? Because they had absolutely no idea what it was. Wow. And Patrick was like, oh, I've met some before. And I'm like,
oh, that's so innocent.
I know. And he explained everything to everyone, and the teachers were sitting there going, oh my gosh. Meantime, the kids were like, oh wow, I didn't know they
I bet you they probably thought, this child must be dreaming, because the kinds of stories that we know, or the things that happen in South Africa, if you tell it to people here, they tend to go, yeah, whatever. Like they don't really understand that it's possible for those things to happen.
It sounds like a movie. And it does sound like a movie when you think about it. But one thing that really struck me was, just after our incident, I went to a kid's birthday party, and every single mum at that party had been held at gunpoint before.
Oh no.
And I was just like, this is not normal.
And they just go, oh, well, luckily nothing happened to me, or we made it out on the other side, or they just took the car, or whatever.
Yeah. Everyone said to us, you're so lucky. And we were like, well, are we?
No.
I don't know.
Everybody is so unlucky in that sense. You should look at it the other way around, because that's not how life should be.
Not normal. I mean, here we have no fences around our house. Our front door opens straight out. There's absolutely no security. And initially it freaked me out. Our first rental, literally the front door opened onto the sidewalk. And I didn't quite know how to deal with this.
Yeah.
Because, you open your garage and you just drive onto the road and that's just so different to what we were used to. Here we have to lock the doors so the kids don't escape, whereas there it was just a totally different mindset.
Yeah, so the kids don't escape. That's also probably one of the biggest reasons why they have the parents' bedrooms as the first room in the house
so
when you enter. This is the bizarre thing about Australia that I've now gotten used to it. But just for our viewers, what happens is most houses have the first room. Well, you have a left and a right side, but either one of their sides will be the main bedroom of the house. Will be the first room that you get when you enter. It's rather bizarre. But I think it's for that reason, so that the parents can have an eye on who goes in and comes out of the house.
No, I think you're right. It's funny, when we were looking for a house we've now bought, and one of the things was I was like, I just want to have my bedroom away from the front door. So we eventually found a house like that, and we have now bought it.
That's actually one of the missions of most South Africans when they buy a house. Yes, they look for all those plans. Like, I just want one in the back. What? I don't care where it is, almost as long as the bedroom is in the back.
It's a different mindset, and now it's normal.
What would you say is the best thing for you about Australia? If there's one thing that you can highlight.
I think it's that freedom and the safety. Like, we live a little bit out of Brisbane, but by that I mean we're 20 minutes to the city centre, so we're really not far out of Brisbane, but we have a little bit of land around us, and about a K down the road is you walk into the Brisbane City Forest. And I go walking so often on my own for an hour or an hour and a half, and you don't see another person, and I feel completely safe. Whereas I never had that kind of freedom back in South Africa. And if you do happen to bump into someone, they'll be friendly and polite on the whole. And you don't worry about, oh, what is this person doing? Why are they following me down the track or something? Whereas we had that a lot back there. And for the kids, there's such a sense of freedom. You could, every suburb has a park, if not two, and they just go and they can play for hours, and you don't have to worry about it. And there is litter and there's things like that, but you're not constantly worried about what they're picking up on the floor and things like that.
Talking about parks, I can't remember when I was there the last time, and obviously I left South Africa before I had my own children. But do you have the parks that you're talking about now in South Africa? Do you still get them?
Not the same. There are some
like neighborhood parks where children have swings and slides and things.
Like in the suburb we were at, there was one, but it was purely looked after by the neighborhood. So the mums in the area had set up a group that fundraised to get the jungle gyms put in and then maintain the park. Because unfortunately, there's just not that kind of support there for the infrastructure. That was one of the things that just blew us away when we got here. It's just the number of parks and how amazing they are. Like, every park has a barbecue set up with beautiful toilets. Beautiful is probably not the word you want to use for them, but well-maintained bathroom.
Functional.
Yes, functional. They've got the soap. They've got whatever you want. And it's just amazing. And everyone looks after it as well. You go, you do your barbecue, and at the end of it, you will clean up and leave it as you found it so that the next family can come and do the exact same thing. And it's just that almost pride in your environment, which was missing back in South Africa. Here, a lot more people are more motivated to look after things because you also know that there's not going to be someone coming to clean up after you straight away.
That's true. That's right. There is that sense of you got to look after your own things because nobody else will do it for you.
Yes.
In the same breath of asking what's the best thing for you about Australia, what have you found to be the opposite? What's the thing that annoys you the most, or what's the hardest for you to get used to?
I think the hardest thing is probably not having family around. And not having that long-term connection with people. I was born and bred in Joburg, and I'd been there for 34 years. And I can almost guarantee no matter which shopping center I went to, I would recognize someone from some time in my past. And you just miss that now. But funny enough, I had made some friends here and stuff. And the first time I bumped into one of them in the shops, I got so excited that I hugged her. And you could see she was like,
that is exactly what happened to me when the first time I felt like, I think this is now home, was when I recognized somebody in the shops. I'm like,
I know
think
you.
it's somebody
Yes.
I met at church once.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, there's a familiar face. I'm like, hi.
That's exactly what I was. And now it's great. Like Patrick, my son's now started prep, and we're all in the same area because they all go to the state school. And no matter where we go now, we will bump into one of the kids from school, and it's great. Like everyone's getting to know each other, and yeah, it's really like a sense of community. So that's something I do miss from South Africa, is just having those long-term connections and not having to go, oh, hi, I'm Jane. Yes, I am South African. Like,
yeah. But that will come in with time.
Yes,
yeah,
it will. And then what other things annoy me? Often it's quite hard to understand what the Australians say, and I am English. So you think we're speaking the same language, but we're really not.
It's actually more so in Brisbane. We used to live in Brisbane for a couple of years, and we definitely felt that in Brisbane. They speak a whole different language. It's English, but it's like...
yeah, everything's abbreviated, and everyone's got a nickname, and
like
don't quite know what's going on.
Australia, that's the way we would say it. They say Straya.
Straya, yeah.
Straya. They don't even say the O.
Yeah.
They start with a S. Straya.
Straya. And now my kids are starting to talk like that. So I've got to learn it.
So your kids, so you're English speaking. Yes. So your children never learned Afrikaans.
No. We were English, which made a big difference for us. It made it a lot easier to transition, I think, and just settle in, because you're not trying to deal with an extra dynamic of a different language. But
and what do you think about the child support system in Australia in terms of daycare and those kinds of things?
So it was quite hard to get my head around the kindy situation, where they do 5 days a fortnight here. I don't know if it's the same.
It's a bit annoying. Yes, it is.
It's weird.
I have one in kindy at the moment, and I can never remember which week is it. Is it the on week or the off week?
Because both my husband and I have been working full time, we eventually got them into daycares where they're at the same place 5 days a week, and it makes a huge difference. But it's been great, actually. The daycares are really big, I find, whereas in South Africa it would be the small daycare on the corner that had like 50 kids. The one that we started at had 200 children a day.
Wow, that's big.
You would never guess so when you're there. Like, it just ran smoothly. Everyone knew everyone's name, and it was great. We have downsized since that because we moved house. We're in a daycare now. I think there are 90 kids between about 6 classes. And then Patrick's at, he's in prep at the state school. And the kindy's been great. Like, they're really on board with giving you updates of what the kids are doing, how things are going. And it's relaxed as well. Like, it's not too stressful. And then as far as prep has gone, we're lucky because we are slightly out of Brisbane. We're at a smaller school. And like, my son only has about 20 kids in his class. I think about 20% of them are South African. So at least everyone has similar history, and we're getting to know the other parents and that.
Well,
but
that's one way of meeting really friends.
Good. Yes. And through the whole homeschooling situation, the support was really good. And it went as well as can be. I was glad I only had one child to try and homeschool, because we just ignored kindy. But it was good.
And Brisbane, yes, you've started opening up your well, not your borders, but everything else. Like, you're almost back to normal post-COVID, aren't you?
Pretty much back to normal. I think the only thing that might still be limited could be weddings. But other than that, there are only 2 COVID cases in the whole of Queensland at the moment. So things are pretty much back to normal, and it's run as smoothly as possible, I think. Yeah.
Do you anticipate going back to South Africa again soon?
Unfortunately, probably not for a while. We do want to explore Australia more and just see what's around here as well. So we've kind of looked at possibly going every 2 or 3 years back to South Africa. We're just going to slowly bring everyone over to Australia, and then that'll be fine. We've been lucky to have a lot of our family visit, excuse me, which has been great. Yeah, and a couple of friends have come to do little look-see visits, and I think they're going to be a few more in the future, hopefully. But yeah, we probably won't be going back just yet. Hopefully at some stage, though.
But you said that you hope to be the first of your rest of your family to follow you. So tell me about your family that's left behind in South Africa. Where are they? Which areas?
Okay. So I only have 2 family members left in South Africa. My mom and my younger brother are both in Joburg. My mom is in the process of doing a visa application to move over permanently.
Okay.
She has visited us a lot. She is a Qantas frequent flyer. They probably know her by name by now. And she loves it. And she was one of those people who, before she'd ever been here, she was like, no, I don't like Australia. I find Australians are very abrupt and all of that. And she's completely changed her tune. She loves this place. She loves all Australians. They're the most friendly people she's ever met.
Aww.
And she cannot wait to get here. So that visa will hopefully come through at some stage. And then my younger brother's still in South Africa. So we just have to convince him that he should come and visit or come and stay. And then my husband's family are back in South Africa and Zimbabwe, but they are all pretty settled there, and yeah, we'll probably not be moving over.
And in terms of work, you said both you and your husband work full-time?
Yes. My husband had a job when we moved over. So he went back to the company that he worked with before he left Australia. When we decided we were coming back, he phoned the company and said, do you know of anything going? And they were thrilled to have him back.
What's his industry?
He's a civil engineer. Excuse me. So that went really well. And I'm a physiotherapist. And so I didn't have a job when I came over, but I had done all my registration so that I could work.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'd let the kids settle in and I'll take 6 months and then I'll start. And the kids were settled within about 8 weeks. And I was like,
what excuse am I going to use now?
Exactly. There's only so many times you can clean your house and do your things. And I was like, right, let's get a job. Yeah, and it's been great. I was working between 3 different jobs basically, but I've cut it down now to 2 jobs, and I've cut down to only 4 days a week. I think it's a different story here where you have to do all your housework and all of that. A lot of people here have a lot more flexibility in their job and their hours of work. And I've now decided that, 5 days a week was too much for a mom to try and juggle. So I'm doing 4 days going forwards, and it's already going a lot easier.
And what would your typical day consist of? How can you give us an idea from waking up, what time that would be until you go to bed?
Okay. It's pretty full on, I must say. And that was one thing that I found quite interesting when we first moved over and we stayed with some friends who were South African. Like, once you're up, you just keep going. But you get into routines and then it just works. At the moment, everything's a bit different because Mark is working from home, which has made everything just so much easier. But yeah, we get up by 6, start getting up and ready. I leave earlier so that I can get to work, so that I can be ready for school pickup. But yeah, I'll be out the door and I start seeing patients by 7:30.
Wow.
Mark finishes getting the kids ready.
And that's long before school starts. We have to mention that because in Australia, school starts at 9. Yeah.
Which is probably actually one of the things that's most annoying about Australia. School is from 9 until 3.
I agree with you. It makes it hard because you got to find something before and after school in terms of looking after kids.
Yes. So we've kind of alternated so that I start work early and finish early, and then Mark starts work late and finishes late. So yeah, we're lucky that we can do that juggle. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll be out by 7:30. Mark will finish getting the kids ready, and they leave by about 8:30 to get to school. And then yeah, they're daycare, kindy, school for the day, and I'll be finished by about 2:30, so I can typically fetch the kids by 3. We'll come home. We either have ballet or gymnastics or hip hop or one of those things. Yeah, come home, do a bit of homework, try get the laundry done, unpack the dishwasher for the second time that day, just get everything organized. And it's better just to stay on top of the housework, because if you leave it for a week and then have to catch up on the weekends, there goes your weekend. Yeah, so we just streamline things, and then Mark will get home a bit later in the evening, and then we start all over again the next day.
So you'll have dinner with the kids,
Yes.
just the 3 of you?
Yeah, probably just the 3 of us, just because they're still quite little. And Mark will typically go to gym a couple of nights a week, so he gets home a little bit later. He'll get home in time for them to go to bed.
Okay.
Yeah, but a couple of days I work later than that, and the kids, like Patrick, will go to after school care, but yeah, it's not that often. Yeah, and then we just try and keep the weekends free to do, less intense things. The weeks are pretty full on, and then the weekends are more for relaxing and just
When do you
finishing
do
off those things.
groceries and meal planning?
Yeah, so meal planning is a bit of a pain. I try and do it on a weekly basis, but at the moment I'm doing online shopping for the groceries. So yeah, just do it, and then I pick it up on the way home from work on the one day, bring it home, and everything's ready to go for the week. So
which is quite handy in Australia. I don't know if you can have that in South Africa. Yes, you can either choose for the big grocery chains. They can either deliver your groceries at home, or you can do what they now have these days. It's called the drop, what do you call it? The park.
Click and collect.
Click and collect. That's right. So you
that's
just
what
park,
we do. Yes.
And then you text them a message to say I'm here, basically, and they bring out your whole full trolley of groceries, literally to your car.
And put it in your car. Yes.
Put it in, and you drive home. That's awesome. Or you can park and go into the store and literally go and collect your trolley from the store. I really don't know why you would want to do that, except potentially if you've got some other stuff that you want to do in the shopping center as well. But still, then it's nicer if somebody else pushes your trolley to your car.
It's great. I think what is different here is, like, if you have to go grocery shopping and your kids are not at school, they are with you. Whereas in South Africa, we never had that. We're lucky enough to have a full-time nanny, and the kids never came shopping with us unless they absolutely had to. And yeah, so here you're constantly juggling
grocery shopping with a 4 and a 6-year-old.
And the trolleys here are horrendous. They do not drive straight. Yeah, they're 4-wheel drive.
Carl, my husband, always says there's such a big business opportunity for somebody to come and fix the trolleys in Australia. Just you've got to bolt the back wheels, because the problem is the back wheels turn too, and they just need to bolt them, and then that way, or the front wheels. I can't remember. Anyway,
I think everything goes a different direction. I miss those Woolies trolleys that just drive straight and have a cup holder. Like, I miss that.
Nice. Yeah, cup holder. Fancy. See, there's a business opportunity for anybody out there. You can come and do that here.
I promise you, we will support you.
Oh, Jean, it's so lovely to talk to you. And one of the things that I usually ask my wonderful interviewees is, what's one piece of advice that they would like to give South Africans who are potentially considering making the move to Australia?
Yes. I think just do it. Like, I wish we had done this years ago and gotten settled, and we'd be 5 years down the line or whatever, and just we'd be so relaxed and this would be home. But we can't go back and do that. But any friends who are asking me about it, and they, like, some of them have said, no, we're going to have our kids in South Africa where we have support and we have nannies and stuff, and then we'll move over when they're going to start school and that, which is fine if that's what you're planning to do. But just come. You can have kids here. Everyone does it. You don't need the support. Kids get used to it, and they will look after a lot of things themselves if they don't have someone following them around to do it. yeah, just keep going. It's hard work. I must say that paperwork before we came
Yeah.
is enough to make you think, is it really worth it? It really is worth it. It cost us a lot of money to get here, and I'd still do it again any day of the week. Like we've been lucky. In 2 years, we have never looked, my husband and I, we've never looked at each other and gone, I really wish I was in South Africa. We have never had that moment. There are hard days where you miss your family and you miss your friends, and like you're just sick of being the new kid on the block. But
what do you do? What do you do when you feel like that? What's your go-to therapy for yourself?
I think just managing to chat to everyone back in South Africa makes you feel that little bit closer to family and friends. We have an 8-hour time difference, which is hard. So when we are free in the evenings to chat to everyone in South Africa is at work.
Yeah.
So that does make it harder. Whereas I know Brisbane, it's a little bit easier to juggle the time difference back to South Africa. Oh, sorry. Yes, Perth.
Yes, yeah. We're 6 hours and you guys are 8 hours.
Yes.
In South Africa, yeah. It's easy for me in the sense that I know if it's 12 o'clock here, it's 6 o'clock there, because it's right, like, the other side of
the other opposite,
the watch. But you can call out any time of the day. I can tell you immediately without thinking what the time is in South Africa, because I just know it by now.
Yeah, you automatically work it out and you know who's going to be awake or available and stuff.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, you just know it immediately. But yes, the time difference is annoying.
It is quite hard. But one other thing, when you do have those moments, I actually try and go on my bushwalks, which is a hike for South Africans. And it just reaffirms why we are here, because you get to walk in the most beautiful, pristine forests. We have kangaroos in our garden. Like, it's awesome. And that just reminds you of why you are here. And we all have a bad day every now and then, and that's fine. Then have a bad day, and the next day you'll be fine. Getting into work and into routines and things definitely helped.
Yeah.
I think if you don't have that kind of routine to your week, it's a bit tricky, but that's helped us, and luckily we've been able to work.
And in terms of making friends, what would you say? Any tips?
My husband laughs at me because I'll chat to people at the park and then I'll be like, do you want to be my friend?
Yes, I do the same. Why not?
And
it might just end up being your best friend.
Exactly. And I don't think I've ever had anyone go like, no thanks. Like, most people are like, sure. Or we'll meet you back at the park next Sunday at the same time, or whatever the case is. And you do get to meet people and see them like that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of play groups and things if your kids are not in school yet, which has been good. And then I've met a lot of people through Facebook. So different suburbs have different like social groups and that, where you can meet up with them. And then I've met so many South Africans here who I wouldn't have crossed paths with, but we are now really good friends, because if you don't have family here, you have to make your own family. So yeah, you spend a lot of time with those people when you can.
Yeah. Yes, they become your family.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yeah.
I know you're in Perth. They've got like adopt a grandma or a grandpa kind of
nice.
setup. It's really cute. It's at one of the retirement villages.
Oh, sweet.
And it's such a good idea, because it's a woman I know started it just like 3 years or so ago. She said, because she's an immigrant herself, not from South Africa, but her children basically grew up without their grandparents around.
Yes.
And there is this retirement village in the specific suburb that they live in, where there's so many grandparents there who hardly ever see their family or their grandchildren. So they just decided, what a great idea. It's like a play group, essentially.
Yeah, that would be great.
But where the oldies and anyone who's got young children, like usually
can come and have a play.
Come and have a play together. And it's like adopt a grandparent kind of situation. And they love it. It works fabulous, because it's a different dynamic for really young children to spend time with older people. And likewise, the older people feel that it keeps them young, and that love and that kind of innocence and genuine that you get genuineness from a
nice.
child. It's just something you can't buy.
Yeah.
So it's a really good idea. You might want to consider starting it up
That's
in
something
Brisbane,
good. Yes.
or mention it to somebody else who's not working.
Yeah, get them
because you've got enough on your plate.
What I do find quite interesting here is there are so many people from all over the world. For a country with really hard immigration laws, there are not many Australians. So a lot of people are in the same boat where they don't have family, they don't know people. So yeah, that's a good way to get to know people as well, because everyone's in a similar situation.
And people understand it. They understand where you're coming
Yeah.
from, because if they didn't move here themselves, their
Yeah.
parents probably moved here.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you're a migrant.
And
in some
so
shape
many
or
people,
form.
yes, so many people move through the cities as well. Like they get transferred through work and stuff, and they move. Yeah, so luckily that's helped to make friends, and meet people.
I think social
I,
media helps a lot these days
yes,
too.
I do think if just for younger couples or younger people, it would be easier to move earlier, where you can go out and you can socialize a lot more than you can when you're at home with your kids. So that's just something to bear in mind. And even for people who think, oh, one day they want to end up in Australia, like how Mark, my husband, did it with coming on a student visa, it's opened so many doors for us. The fact that he came so early, instead of deciding to study and then travel and then move over, to go about it the other way around has really worked well.
Yeah. Thank goodness for the foresight that they had back then.
I know. Thank heavens for his parents sending him over here.
Yeah.
It worked well.
And his parents are still in South Africa, you said?
They're actually in Zimbabwe.
Oh, Zimbabwe, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they'll be able to come and visit you lots and lots and lots.
Yes. They've been over once. They came last year because they wanted to see the house and where we are and all of that. It just makes it easier for them to visualize what we're doing. Which was so lovely. We'll just slowly get everyone over on holidays and then see, look how amazing it is. Come stay.
Well, fingers crossed for you guys.
Yeah.
And good luck with the whole process. But as you said, it is possible.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of keep going at it and chipping away one day at a time.
Yes. Yeah. We just look back now and it's been 2 years and we are completely settled. Like,
wow.
We're happy. We actually had a friend over the other day who's been here. He was also from Zimbabwe and he came over with his parents probably 20 odd years ago, 20, 30 years ago. And he looked at us and he just said, he was like, 2 years and you've done it. You've made it look easy. You guys are settled. He joked. He was like, you should write a book. I was like, no, don't worry. We'll just chat to you and you can do it's your job. And 2 years goes by in a blink. So the sooner you can do it, the better.
Yeah, that's right. You think, where did all this time go? We're already here.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure.
And it's lovely to see that you've settled in and you've made Australia your home. I'm sorry to hear about your incidents in South Africa, but hopefully your story will open those eyes of some of South Africans who were like you, thinking, it's okay. If something happens to us, then we will consider moving. That's maybe too late.
If I could go back and make sure that didn't happen, I would gladly do that. I know someone once made the comment that it's too expensive to move, and I said, no, it's not. You actually can't put a price on that situation. It completely changed our lives, and it's changed our lives for the better. So that's all we can take as a positive out of it, is that it was the push we needed to make this massive move, and it's worked out for us so well.
Well, Australia is lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. You must have a lovely weekend.
Yes, you too. Thank you for the chat.
And yes, Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Jen.
Bye.
Bye.